Hey everybody, this is Rex Bear with Leak Project. I'd like to thank you all for joining us this edition. It is July 7th, 2016, and there is some mass unrest right now, according to the mainstream media out there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because of a shooting of a person by the name of Alton Sterling. Now, I watched the video footage, I would say at least a half dozen times, and you can definitely see this guy getting taken down by two police officers. Then you can clearly see they put their knee to his neck and shoot him. But you don't see any of the footage before that or what took place to that event. So these are some of the questions that I asked Jason, and we have a conversation about how the media basically uses situations like this to create riots, panic, mass hysteria, better ratings for the media, etc., and to push their agendas. So that's what this presentation is essentially about. We just ask the questions that need asking, and I get Jason's take on it. So check out our website, leakproject.com. It is absolutely cutting edge, and we've updated it to a brand new server that is lightning fast, so it's a lot better experience for the audience. Also, as a contributing member at Leak Project, you will have access to exclusive content. So, and all the contributions go to the Leak Project in equipment, so we can get some night vision stuff, drones, traveling. We're going to try and get out to Baton Rouge to see if there's actually riots going on there right now. So keep safe. We'll talk to you soon. This is Rex Bear. Enjoy the show. Way that the media is using this to create more of a divide and conquer, race wars, riots. This, to me, this is perfect, picture perfect for these guys to do this, because you'll have these titles that say the day after somebody was shot, another black man is shot and killed by a police officer. Well, yeah, there's going to be lots of white and black people killed the next day by police officers. I mean, this whole bait and switch thing with the race card is really making me wanting to throw up all over the camera crew here. Yeah,
I know they're completely using it to their advantage. I feel like it was an accident that they didn't mean to get out there. Like how they treat people, is different. Like they're basically, they're told to treat the blacks and the other races like this, and kind of segregate and all that. But they didn't know that this was going to be on camera. You know what I mean? So they're just using it to their advantage. I feel, So it wasn't supposed to be, like it wasn't staged or anything. But yeah, they're definitely bending it to divide and conquer. You know what I mean? That's first thing that popped up that all you could really find about it was like race war, black people like all standing there on the corner yelling "fuck the police" and this and that. And now, when you really look deeper, it's just like Louisiana is like a traditional open carry place where you can just literally, anybody over 17 can have a gun on them for any reason. No permit at all. Like, you see the deeper lying things there. Like I said, it's literally one of the only states that you can do that. And basically everything they did was against the law. I mean, you can't take the gun out of his pocket after you shoot him and you didn't ask him to, you know what I mean? Basically, it even shows you in the law that if you had a gun and you didn't have a permit, all you have to do is just tell the cops, and that's like how they can deal with it, because literally anybody over age 17 can have a gun.
Did you read the news about how supposedly this Alton Sterling... Now, first of all, my condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Sterling. I know that this has got to be just a terrible time for them to go through the loss of a friend or a family member. And when you watch the video, I watched it about a half dozen times, and you can clearly see that these two police officers tackle him to the ground. One of them has their knee up against his neck while he's on the ground. And, you can tell there's some confrontation going on there. You can't really see too much because the video footage is from a cheap camera on a cell phone a little ways away. But then you do see the gun get pulled out. You hear the shots. And immediately, if you're an emotional person, you're going to think, what in the world is wrong with these guys? He's down on the ground. They've got their knee next to his neck. It looks like he's pretty much self-contained. Yet, then you have to kind of look at the other side of the coin here. Imagine being a police officer in a place like Baton Rouge or any other location, big city, where you have to deal with some pretty rough characters on a daily basis. Now, whether this guy was white or black or purple or pink or green or, whatever, I don't think that it really would have mattered to these guys in that circumstance. I think he would have got shot no matter what color he was. Now, once again, whether that's right or wrong, I can't take a position on it. I can clearly see the video footage, and I can say, wow, this is, in my opinion, he didn't need to be shot, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. And now all I'm reading is all this video, or all these news articles coming out saying, Well, let me give you some examples here. Let's pull a couple of these up that I had. NBC News comes out with an article by Trymaine Lee. Alton Sterling shooting exposes racial fractures in Baton Rouge. Well, once again, if he was white, would this article have came out saying that there's racial fractures? I don't think so. And then here's another article that came out by Vox Identifies. Alex Abad Santos came up with this article, or at least he revised it, and it's titled Larry Wilmore on Alton Sterling. The punishment for being a black man shouldn't be death. Really, guys? Are you telling me that the only reason he was killed is because he's black? And for all of you protesters out there that are looking for ways to just stir the pot and break stuff and steal stuff, I'm not talking about genuine people that want to see change. I'm talking about those idiots out there that are criminals in the first place and they're just looking for an excuse to cause more problems. Do you guys really think that he was killed just because he's black? Really?
I don't agree with the fact that they killed him because he was black, okay? But I'm not saying that these cops aren't racist either, you know? In that kind of an area where you have basically a racially divided and segregated area, and it's done like that with income and, you know, the whole shebang, it's still basically segregated there. This guy was a local. He sold DVDs. Everybody knew him by name. It's a small town right there. He sold DVDs. He was like the big neighborhood guy, and yeah, he had a criminal record, but it wasn't violent. Like I said, anybody over 17 can carry a gun there. They didn't ask him to they say get on the ground and tackle him at the same time, and then they say, I swear to God, and he doesn't reach. His hands are at the side, clearly at his side. You can see that in the video. He doesn't reach for anything, and then they shoot him in the chest. He didn't do anything. It was almost like, stop resisting, and the guy's deaf and he doesn't hear you and he keeps walking up the street, like the same kind of mentality. It was almost like...
Did you hear the official story as to why the police were actually sent there in the first place?
Because they heard there was a man in the area with a gun, all right? Anybody over the age of 17 in Louisiana can carry a gun, concealed or otherwise, okay? That's the law, unless there's a clearly marked sign in a church, courthouse. I just looked over the whole entire law. Anybody over the age of 17. And you can actually get a permit for a couple of dollars to where you can carry it on your side, like in churches and schools and police stations, things like that. But it's clearly marked with a sign if you can't have a gun there. And that's it. And that's the law. It's a traditional open carry state.
Let's add something to that, though. The reason the cops supposedly showed up, at least according to the official story, is when he was out there selling DVDs, a homeless person came up to him and asked him for money, so he flashed his gun on that individual. So if that's the case, if he's flashing guns at people because they're asking for money, then I can certainly see why police officers would go on scene and be guarded and ready to pounce. You know what I mean? I mean, if you were a police officer and you had to go through this kind of stuff on a daily basis and just see the worst of the worst, especially in certain areas that might be more dilapidated and I guess you could say ghetto-ish. And then, so they go out there because they were told that there's somebody flashing guns at people in front of the store. What would you do in that case? All
right, well, first of all, you got to use your discretion. It's like when you're talking to people and you're the police, it's like talking to 4-year-olds, okay? So if you get one 4-year-old that says somebody came and took my friend away, okay, you wouldn't believe it. But if 4 or 5 4-year-olds say, hey, somebody came and took that little girl away, you'd believe it as corroborated evidence, however you want to look at it. You start believing it a little bit more to the story, okay? When people call and tell law enforcement, especially in a community like that, they might be using it for their own personal reasons. You know, you might have been in competition. They're literally selling DVDs and things like, minuscule things to get by. The cops should have the training, the judgment, all that, and completely not be gung-ho, completely show up and see what the problem is, not be going onto the scene, guns blazing, this, that, and the other. No matter what, they took the job. They know the area. They know the people, the locals. I mean, they literally get the chance to know these people. It's not like me and you pulling up into the ghetto, not knowing anything about the environment. It's literally like, hey, Bob, let's go over to Triple S and get a donut. They know they know everything about it.
They don't eat donuts anymore, man. They're pushing that bagel craze.
Idea. It's a small
I'm joking.
So they should use their own discretion. They shouldn't come out gung-ho, this, that, the other. They have cams. They're literally, you're armed, combat trained, and have a weapon on your side, and you have the permission to use it with your own discretion. That man wasn't reaching for it. He was outnumbered. You had him at every corner. He was on his back laying on the ground, first of all. So if you can't outgun, outshoot, outdraw, whatever, combat a downed man on his back that's out of shape with 2 or 3 of yous that are fully armed with non-lethal and lethal means, then there's something wrong. That's you're not doing your job. You're incompetent, and that's it. I mean, you should be cool, calm, and collected. You should face that completely cool, calm, collected, unbiased, and kind of like a, not like a drone, but like a military person. Somebody that has heart, doing it with conviction, doing it for a reason. They're there because they really want to help. Okay, then it levels the playing field. If you really had a good cop that wanted to do his job, then people wouldn't be attacking the police either. All right, because in most small neighborhoods, even the ones that are more trashy, if the cops get involved with the neighborhood, you don't crap where you eat, so to speak. If they live around that area too, they're going to be an active part of the neighborhood, and people aren't going to hate the police. Okay, that's the local cops, and this, that, and the other. People know you by name. It's like your neighbor. That they don't understand that. Like, these are the same people, same faces, same thing all the time. That's the guy that sold DVDs in front of the Quickie Mart. Like, they knew him by name. I feel like they're told how to act and how to react and this, that, and the other. But like I said, you live in a state where everybody can carry a gun, so you got to approach every situation like every man's armed. Would you not? No.
Let me jump in real quick for a minute, because I can certainly see what you're saying as well. And I've met some amazing cops in my life, and I've seen some pretty a-hole cops as well. It's just like any industry, whether you're a doctor, maybe you're in some type of medical field or industry, maybe you're in sales. There's going to be good and bad in every industry, every walk of life, no matter what you do or where you're at. There's usually that opposite out there. So I can definitely see, wouldn't it be great? I mean, what you said, that would be fantastic if every police officer used the golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated. Don't walk into a situation with guns blazing. Yet the reason I'm talking like this and trying to maybe just a little bit play devil's advocate here is because we don't have the whole story, and the media is so good at spinning things. They can take a video clip like this and maybe something happened before. Maybe this guy, we really don't have a whole lot of information about him except for what we found on the internet. And because this is so recent, I haven't dove into his Facebook account or any other social media stuff to see what this guy is really about. But, maybe he said some things that were threatening to these guys, or maybe they've had encounters with him before. I haven't seen his police records. Do we really know that he's just selling DVDs out there, or could he have been slanging something else? I don't know. I really don't. But yeah, you watch the video and it's going to piss anybody off that has a conscience. They're going to see this and go, wow, this guy gets tackled to the ground. They put a knee up to his neck, and then all of a sudden, bang, bang, bang. You see that, of course you're going to think that cops are corrupt and you're going to be nervous about this kind of stuff. I can definitely see that. I'm just trying to find out if there's a balance there, because imagine putting your shoes on the other feet there for a minute. I don't know if I used the right term there. Look at the other side of the coin, and maybe you walked into this situation as a police officer with the best intentions, but something happened that wasn't recorded, and now you're being plastered as the scapegoat, and now the media's got something to create this divide and conquer. And what's up with all this Black Lives Matter stuff? Doesn't everybody's life matter, no matter what color you are? Couldn't you be black, green, purple, yellow? It doesn't matter. Really, all lives matter, don't they?
Yeah, it's divide and conquer tactics. Like I said, they take it and they use it to their benefit, to benefit the agenda in any way they can. That's all they do, is they twist it, manipulate it to benefit them in any way. And if it gets out of control or something like this, where it gets leaked out and they didn't expect it, didn't plan it, didn't set it up, they can twist it to be advantageous against that, because they have this separation of race and people, this, that, and the other. Like, think about the whole situation when you think about slavery, this, that, and the other. 200 years ago, whatever, your whole family, there's no money, there's like, you already have established people, and we don't educate generation after generation after generation. We don't teach them just barely enough what they can do to help us out, and don't pay them. This, like, and then you set them free, then call them equals. There's literally thousands of years of us having civilized society, and then we took them out of their tribal society. They're not equals in that sense, because they didn't get a fair start. Okay, so that's why there's ghettos, things like this. Like, the whole thing was, literally, I know you get time to rise out of this and of course become more than what your past and your ancestors were, but only in the environment that you're allowed to flourish in. You know what I mean? So in that same sense, we create this, the rich created this division, which created a class division, which creates a race division, which just means like the poorest of the poor are going to point the fingers at the white people and the cops, this, that, no matter what. Even if it was just two asshole cops and they just happen to be white, they don't think about anything. They get angry at police. They get angry at me and you because we're white, and then that's Black Lives Matter. That's where it comes from. Instead of all lives matter, we need to unite, not divide, you know, and just come together completely. It's the idea. They'll use it to their advantage in any way they can. I mean, gun control, you know, whatever the agenda takes to fit at that time with the story that leaks out. Yeah, in my complete opinion, I believe the cops shouldn't have shot him. They probably knew the guy that just got gung-ho, and that was it. They didn't think anybody was around, probably didn't think anybody was in those cars. And from what I heard, the surveillance footage at the Triple S store or whatever is being reviewed by the FBI or something like that, to that matter. And so there's more footage that'll be released here soon. This all happened a day ago, so it's still under review and probably edit.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm reading on the Daily Beast right now, and according to, I think, the convenience store owner, he said, I told them I would like to be in the store when they took it, Maflahi said, and this is according to this article, and they told him they didn't want him to see the footage, which is quite interesting. And he also says that he never received a warrant, but they took the video anyway. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know all the laws and regulations with stuff like that. Certainly, if you're in law enforcement and you see something like that go down, you would want to have all evidence possible. So, you know, you definitely see why they took that. Now, but at the same time, what's going to come out after this? And why does the media have to play this so much to... Well, I'll tell you why. Because this is going to be great ratings for the media. It's going to continue to push their advertisements and their agendas and the divide and conquer. I mean, there's not just the media involved in this. You've got politicians and lobbyists and entrepreneurs and businessmen and people in all sorts of locations around the world behind the scenes. They're going to use this for their own personal gain. And that's what makes me, I guess, more concerned than anything, is you take a horrific event like this, somebody gets killed, somebody gets shot to death on the ground with a knee next to their neck, and instead of there being true mourning many times, and of course the family is going to be just heartbroken, but a lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to come up with their own ideas based upon the little amounts of information that they have.
Yeah, that's because of how the media works. Like you said, they're going to go to their favorite media station, but how people like me and you do things, we definitely get a wide perspective from many sources, and that's where you actually start hearing from the people, because the independent resources, the independent media that actually goes to the town and interviews the people, the ones that the mainstream media doesn't want to interview or put on there because they tell the truth, you know, instead of the one guy that just happens to be an actor, this, that, and the other, that's saying exactly what he wants you to say with an earpiece in on tape. You know what I mean? You literally see half these interviews with so-called witnesses, this, that, and the other anymore, literally have acting experience, and
reading teleprompters. You can see their eyes going back and forth.
Yeah, or they literally have headphones in their ears because they say they're doing it via Skype. Okay, just think about that. Oh, we're doing it via Skype. That's why he has headphones in. No, it's probably so you can tell him and he doesn't get as confused. He don't hear the background noise. He can hear what you're saying and talk and not be confused. You know what I mean? That's like it's blatant. Like I know I showed you from that Orlando shooting. That guy was in 2 or 3 movies, and that's the only credible witness the media really interviewed. Yet the other guy that was there, that the independent media interviewed, didn't really make it out because everything he said contradicted that guy's, and he came out first. But the actor that came on second explained away everything conveniently and naturally to what the first guy said, so you could think it was just missensed judgment, or the guy not really hearing, or the heat of the moment he was recalling it differently. That's what they wanted to raise, that doubt, so they had the guy say the perfect things to say that completely cancel out what the other guy said, and it was convenient, perfect, and he just happened to be an actor. But I mean, you can look it all up, it's there. That's the one credible guy that the media was using for that Orlando thing, and the other witness was garbage, and he was the one saying that somebody was holding the door back, and then this mysterious other interviewee, the one that comes after that solves the whole problem, says he was the one holding the door. Okay, how's that? It's too perfect. It's like you're watching a movie and they forgot a line, or they noticed the hole in the movie, so in the sequel they come back and fix that plot hole and explain it away, and they do a bad job at it because it's too perfect, if you know what I mean. They do that a lot, and movies that have more than one, you know, ending or whatever, because basically they run through the movies. They're like, you know what, this doesn't fit the original plan. Now we got to explain this away or this away, and it's the same way. That's how the media does it. They just twist, bend, fly, and point the camera in the right direction. You know, if you get a group of people and hurtle it down into the camera, make it look like this huge riot when it was literally maybe 150 people in a parking lot, you know, and they were all from the community. You know what I mean? It's saying riots, this, that, the other, but they were protesting. They were peaceful, and there was about 150 people. It wasn't a riot. They weren't breaking anything, and they were basically all there protesting. So it's just the wording and everything, you know. They're going to twist it to their benefit. It got out. It wasn't something they planned to get out.
Well, I mean, here's another article that came out on The Independent by Katie Forrester. Alton Sterling shooting. Black police officer tells colleague who killed Salzman, take the uniform off and put the KKK hoodie on. It's just... Yeah. I don't see, if a white person got shot by a black police officer, that you'd see an article that says, oh, go tell that cop to take off his uniform and put his Black Panther outfit on.
They're in basically a poor black neighborhood, and, you know, the odds of seeing a white guy selling the DVDs where the black guy usually sells DVDs with a gun would be it'd be off, and just ridiculous, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's a small town.
Do you think they had multiple confrontations with this guy, though?
Yeah, I believe he's always there selling DVDs, trying to get by and doing what he can do. You know, I believe they probably hassled him his whole entire life, and he them, you know. He probably didn't like the police, I'm sure, you know. But do you blame them when you see footage like this? You know, it's the double-edged sword, like you said. I don't believe that cop would have walked up and told a white man to get on the ground like that and then shot him in the chest like that. I just don't see it happening in the same situation. I really don't see it happening that way.
Okay. So let me ask you this then. Do you think that by watching this footage and what your gut's telling you, do you feel that he literally thought that he could get away with shooting that Alton, even though he didn't feel in dire straits threat?
I don't think he believed there was people in the cars around him. I don't think that basically that cell phone footage was the only thing. You can get it out and send it on Twitter, YouTube, anything right now. You know, you can live feed and share things now, even on your cell phone. So
you think he would have handled it differently?
They'd have went in and took that footage. Yeah, they'd have went in and took that footage just like they did. Wouldn't have let the guy viewed it, this, that, and the other. It wouldn't have made but a newspaper article like it does in most towns. And since it got the attention it did, we got to see the brutal reality of the footage. Then it'll be something that it wouldn't have been otherwise. You know, it's basically a martyr type situation. Like, that guy would have died unknown hadn't it been for the people in the car photographing it. Yeah,
now, do you think, let me ask you this, Jason, do you feel that if this event took place without that video footage, that no real consequences would have been brought down to these officers except for maybe a paid vacation?
They'd probably be celebrating now. None of us would be talking about it, and I doubt they'd even get the vacation, you know? That literally they what was it? They're on...
Isn't it mandatory, though, that if you shoot somebody in the line of duty, or if you're a police officer and you kill somebody, that it's automatic suspension?
It's post-traumatic stress type thing. Yeah, they follow like a protocol, so you don't go crazy. They know you're all right. They know you're stable, and I believe you got to see a psychiatrist a couple times, things like that. It's just follows up with like post-traumatic stress disorder type situations because of this type stuff happening, because the cop's freaking out. Maybe you're completely right. Maybe he was completely scared because he's a white cop in a poor black neighborhood. They know how the people feel about him. They know the problems. They know you're allowed to carry guns. Maybe he was literally feared when he approached that large black man. But that means he's unprofessional and incompetent, and he shouldn't have been doing his job.
But if there was a black police officer that was on scene, couldn't he have felt the same way?
Do you think that he'd have shot that black man in the chest with the black officer standing beside him?
I don't know. I really don't know, man. And I can't.
I really don't think that.
Here's the thing, Jason, if just for a second, I mean, after going through so many years of research with the media, and at a younger age, I literally learned how the media is so powerful with the subconscious. And that's why if there's ever a jury that's put together, unless you want to push a certain agenda, the lawyers that are putting these people in place don't want them to have any pre-knowledge media-wise of what that case actually is. So the programming in and of itself, I've been thinking about this a lot more lately too. is probably one of the most powerful forms of mind control and conditioning in the world is the media, is the news, is Hollywood. Because if just think about this for a minute, Jason, go back, and you don't even have to talk about it, but think about it for a second, if you would, please. Go back to a time when you thought about, are you making the right decision, or is what you're doing accurate? And then you think about, well, I saw this in a movie subconsciously, or you reference certain things that you're doing to what you've seen on the TV. You've done that before, right?
Correct.
Everybody does it.
Star Wars has always been a big influence in mine in your life, I can tell, like you said just a couple times in conversations with you. It's huge media mogul. It's like a giant, it's created its own thing, basically, like that type of thing, and that it's actually influenced and reached everybody's life, whether they watched it or not. That's, I completely understand what you're saying.
Right.
Basically, a movie or something like that, whether they like it or not, watched it or not, has influenced and affected their life in more than one way. You can say that a lot of ways, actually, just with that one particular thing. It actually skyrocketed Fox into being a actual company that wasn't bankrupt and stuff like that.
Well, and let's add that with as much research has been done with psychology, learning what makes people tick, certain triggers, etc., the marketing tactics. The people that put together these movies know all this stuff. I mean, that's a part of the process. And with the special effects and just the way the world turns, it's pretty easy to control societies based upon the media. My producer was watching a movie the other day from the early 80s with Kevin Bacon in it, Alec Baldwin. I think it's called She's Having a Baby. And this movie had a real big impact on my producer. And you can tell just by the way that she acts and what she does. And it's pretty cool because you watch that movie from the 80s and you can tell that there's a lot of family values and morals. And people are, Kevin Bacon's a young buck. He's just getting married. He's doing his best to move up in life and get a nice house for his family and just do the right thing. And you watch that movie versus something now. It's just a completely different ballgame. The films today are really pushing these agendas and subliminal programming. You've got sigils and symbols and literally magic. I mean, if you're watching a film, you're a part of that ceremony. You're actually a part of the process. If you're listening to the music, and whether that's good or bad, you are a part of it. Just go do some research in psychology, and you can learn about how if somebody is in a car accident, well, a certain part of their brain activates. Somebody that watches that person in a car accident that might be across the street, the same part of their mind activates. So if you're following what I'm saying, if you watch a film or listen to a song that's a part of the Hollywood industrial complex, you're actually being a part of that ritual. You're putting your energy into that system.
It's an empathetic response even. It's literally to the point where, all right, you see a dog get shot on the movie Old Yeller, or this, that, and the other, and you feel bad, and you look at your dog and you're like, I just want to have that connection with my pet. This, that, it's empathy, okay? They can literally, and humans are empathetic. We get the same responses from watching something as we would if we were in the same scenario. That's why virtual realities, video games, all these things can be addictive to people, because they're getting an impulse that you'd have to get from your physical body being in a situation like that, instead of you just sitting and watching it happen on TV or this, that, and the other. So yes, it's not, when you say magic, it's not like magic, like it's like misunderstood or unknown in the same sense, because it can be proven, it can be known, and it does have an effect. It's, I guess in the only sense that you could call it a theory is because you're dealing with like quantum mechanics and crazy things like that are hard to prove, basically scientifically, other than we know that these things happen. We just don't know the why and the how of how it works. We're not complex enough beings to understand these. That's why they're theories and huge books written on it, but they're not laws like certain things that we have learned in the past. So yeah, the sigils, the symbols, that we've been infiltrated. And if they do the same thing that they did now, Rex, back there in the 80s or 70s or whenever that movie came out, like you're saying, people wouldn't stand for it. They would have reached a lot less wide variety of an audience. It's almost, the idea of it is to trick people into supporting something that they wouldn't regularly, I guess you could say, or get their energy to go to something that they wouldn't normally, send their energy to. Say if it's demonic or bad entity, you know? So think about that. Like, you wouldn't consciously send your energy to something negative, like if you're a good person. But if they could trick you into doing that by kind of infiltrating the shows you're watching, this, that, flashing symbols and double meanings, this, that, and the other at you, or have the actors possibly have some knowledge of what's going on or what they mean, kind of preluding to things like that. And like I said, the symbols are huge. That's a huge part of it. And a lot of it could actually be flashed within like half a second and you not even notice it or see it. But you could really get into that whole decoding thing with that'd take hours and hours and shows upon shows.
You can actually get software programs for your computer, because that stuff can be somewhat effective if you want to, let's say, exercise more or eat healthier. There's these programs you can pick up. I think there's even free ones now where you put the words or the sayings in the software and it'll be in your computer background. And let's say every 10 seconds or 15 seconds, or you can actually set different intervals. You'll have a flash that will come up. And sometimes if you add pictures to the words, you can make it even more effective. So that's kind of neat to try that stuff out if you ever want to see how effective it is for you personally. You know, just put, I am happy today, or something like that. And then it'll just flash in the background for a quarter of a second, and it goes straight to the subconscious mind, bypassing the conscious filters.
The way to really best do it is to find something that your subconscious connects to your conscious mind, to the same thing, something you can relate. Say, this gives me energy. When I see this, it just, oh man, it gets me going. You know, this picture, this song, this music, this word, whether it's just invigorating, the word itself, whatever it is. And you can tie that to a subconscious feeling. If you can do that, all you have to do is just kind of, like you said, replay, remind. If you want to, it's almost like medicating yourself. If you want to have that energy, you just got to tell your mind to focus on that, and you can kind of resonate that energy, if you will, from just the memory or the existence of the feeling you had, because it's how you connect with that feeling. If you can relate a feeling to a picture, an emotion or an energy level to a picture or a symbol, then that's incredible, and that you can use that, you know, in your everyday life, especially if it's positive. You know, say if it's something like the sun. Well, I'd go out and take pictures of the sun, or have some cool sunrises, sit pictures in my house, or for my background on my computer, whatever it could be, to get more of that in my life, to remind me of that feeling of how I felt when I had that energy, and then, you know, basically permeated or resonate that energy out of just the existence of it being there before, you know.
Absolutely.
It's a really deep concept, but it works. Everybody knows this. Like, well, just think about a song. Everybody's got a song that they can listen to when they go to the gym or when they go to work that would just get them there and that ready to, you know, move and exercise type of scenario or whatever it is. And you got to make sure it's not always negative. You know, some people get there from, you know, maybe thrashy, negative kind of hardcore music or negative emotions and feelings like that. That's good to balance those and get those out, but you can't always use that for your driving cause. You got to think of something beautiful and pretty too, you know what I mean? Something that to balance it, the yin and the yang. You know, you can't be all of one or you'll be doomed, basically. You got to balance yourself.
Yeah, balance is key. It really is.
That's the biggest part for me is, you know, like everybody talks about these light, dark battle type things. Yeah, it is a battle. It's the idea of being in the middle where it's kind of muddy and gray, but that's where life is, you know. Without that, you just have, you know, if you had just darkness, there'd be, you know, violence, and you'd destroy your civilization pretty fast. If you're light and then you're just all nice and everything's perfect, then it becomes stagnant, and the same thing would happen, you know. You have to have that perfect balance. And
well, let me ask you a question, Jason, because there's always the saying, for every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction. And if we live in a dualistic universe and there's got to be balance of the yin and the yang, have you ever wondered if you do something good for somebody? Have you heard the saying before, no good deed goes unpunished?
Yeah. I was actually talking about that yesterday. It was really heavy in my mind. That was like the quote of the day yesterday. It's funny you said that. No good deed goes unpunished. You know, that's
Let's talk about that for a minute. If you and I go out and help homeless people, give them some food to fill their bellies, some warm blankets and stuff, does that on the other side of the world or the opposite spectrum create something that would cause hunger and dissatisfaction?
Well, I feel what it means at times is sometimes when you go out and say if you're doing the right thing, it might get attacked or punished, or basically the the negative in somebody else may come out when you do that. They might say, "Oh, you're doing it for personal gain. You just doing it in goody two shoes. You want to make yourself feel better than those people," or there's always somebody to criticize type scenario. If you're doing the right thing, you're probably going to reach a lot of criticism. You'll just be criticized a lot by people in general, because I feel like that's kind of the message of that, you know.
Yeah, if you ever look at the movies out there, the archetypes of the superhero versus the supervillain, the villains are usually the ones with the money, the cars, the toys, the fame, the fortune, the women, all the fun stuff. And then you look at the villain, or I mean the hero, and he's the one that can't have a girlfriend, because if he has a girlfriend, then he's afraid she's going to get taken out by the bad guys. They usually don't have as much money, they're usually, unless you're Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
So other than Bruce Wayne, they usually don't have any of the fun stuff, and they've got to go through these trials and tribulations, and actually the people that they're helping are the ones that are attacking them because they don't know who they are.
Exactly. I think that's the idea of it. It's basically, in an evil world, if you're being the light, you're going to be attacked, and so no good deed will go unpunished. So if you're not drawing too much attention, not getting attacked, you're probably just doing mediocre. But if, like Velikovsky, things like that, he was a legendary writer and just so ahead of his time with the sciences, and everybody at his time, he was like the Sitchin before Sitchin. He was going back to archaeological facts and biblical facts, things like that, and showing you where other sciences had to answer to these, things like just some of the neat things that we've pointed up about, maybe ancient aliens and those type of theories where we don't really know our real history, basically. And he was so attacked and criticized, but when every prediction that he came to make came true, he started getting credit, way after his death. Sitchin was more of adopted, but he went through the same criticism. He was taking every aspect, every science, and blending the facts together, and making other scientists have to answer to each other. Like physicists and astronomers don't like to listen to historians, basically tell them like, hey, this is how it happened, and look for this, because they're going by a book or that something. It makes them feel less important, and then the scientists kind of get in like a conflict. So they attack, smear, and just don't help each other. But this guy was like best friends with Einstein, went to the same schools, hung out, bounced ideas off of him. Einstein actually thought he was crazy for a little while until he proved a couple of things that came right, and Einstein actually wrote papers and had research done on Velikovsky's behalf in Einstein's name, because he was so attacked for his theories, and Einstein's were so mainstream and accepted. So there you go. Like 100 years ago, it just wasn't. People weren't accepting it, and they were attacking him. They were trolling him all the way back then because he was doing the right thing. He was challenging the norm, which was wrong. So if the norm is wrong and you're being good, then yeah, you're going to get attacked. No good deed will go unpunished in that sense. You know what I mean?
Welcome to the amazing boot camp of Planet Gaia.
Yeah. It's like the planet just needs to go through its fever or get rid of the fleas type situation. It needs to be shaken off and have the fleas and the ticks all knocked off and brushed off of her so she can be back to normal.
It's funny because I used to be a lot more aggravated towards the machine, towards the powers that be that kind of act as gatekeepers, they feel, and keep so many suppressed and feed off of dark ecstasy, whether it's a parasitic entity that we don't see that are talked about, such as the archons, if it's just psychopathic, sociopath, narcissistic bloodlines that have ruled for thousands of years, if it's greed, whatever it is. I just used to be a lot more aggravated towards it. Now, I look at it as, how could we know the greatness and the brilliance of certain opportunities without having a measuring stick, something to compare it to? And there's so much dark and negative stuff going on in the world, and there's the opposite of that going on as well. For example, I had an interview the other day with some wonderful people. It was Zika, Nico, and Marguerite. They live out in Costa Rica. They're doing this they've got a society system basically out there. There's some great websites. One's called Planting Positivity. One is soulrain.com, I think. And then there's another really neat website. But what they do is create trusts and systems of, I guess, deeds and treaties, essentially, that help people become completely sovereign and in a very peaceful, happy manner, where they're not taking advantage of anybody, and they're not having black Suburbans go to their house saying, you're looked at now as a terrorist because you want to be sovereign. Because there's a lot of stuff on the net about the sovereign citizen movement, which is something completely different when you've got those rogue factions out there that are just really pissed off at the government, and they leave nasty letters and comments and stuff like that. But one of the neat things about what Marguerite, Zika, and Nico said was, look, if you're going to write to the government, give them a nice letter. Say something positive at the beginning. Don't attack them, because you're going to get the same response that you give to them. And that made a lot of sense. Some people are stuck in their own fear because of what they've seen on the news. Once again, that they're not willing to make that change. They're going to stay in their own little box, that own imprisonment. And when you start to talk to people that are making the change that we want to see, that they want to see, that brings glimpses of hope to me. It really, you can see a light at the end of the tunnel. Light is within the darkness. And I do feel that it's still even. It's a 50-50 balance.
It has to be. Something would step in to basically counterbalance it. If not, it's always a scale. It's, if one outweighs the other is just going to go up so high that the force of it coming down is going to balance the other one. It's the same idea. You bounce a ball. The harder you throw it at the ground, the higher it's going to bounce. Same idea. It's always so. If ever for a moment it seems out of balance, it's only because it's the balancing act. You get what I mean? It's because, maybe it's dark right now because the light was leading too much. It's just, you can't have stagnation with too much light, and you can't have too much destruction with too much dark. So you have to find the happy balance in the middle. That's any society's battle, basically. People, whether it comes to you're eating a plant, or you're eating an animal that ate plants, or you're eating your steak, something died for you to live that day. No matter in any extent you look at it. Like, I don't care. Something has to die for you to live. Multiple things, actually. But we're all infinite energy. It's almost, we're antennas living inside of this energy, and it's just flowing through us. It's always borrowed. We're all made of the same thing, and if one energy's in one place more than it is the other, it'll eventually flow and make its way around. I feel completely that we literally all are just antennas picking up on this same signal, and some antennas are better than others, I guess. Get a more clear signal, and depending on your tuning to what station or frequency, is how amplified it might be. You might be a negative, you might be a positive. But that's all there. It's just in the what radio station you're tuned into at that moment. And it's just how I look at it. So yeah, there's always positivity. There's always hope. And this is going to go way beyond me or you and all of us. But we need to realize that balance and just make it easier. Just see that balance. We don't need to, make a couple $1,000 and then shoot our neighbor for a couple $1,000. So we can literally just work hard there. Grow some plants, things like that. Just make life easier with a little bit of hard work, things like that, and balance yourself basically with less ups and less downs, more of a gray area where you can have fun, go live your life, and not have to, maybe kill or destroy, or even have these debates on why are police officers shooting the citizens they're supposed to protect.
Well, and let me jump in again real quick too, because I feel that it's important that everybody, I want to make this really clear, everybody's life matters. It doesn't matter what color, what religion, what sexual preference, what football players you like, or if you don't like football. None of that stuff, in my opinion, matters. It really is who you are as a person, what your conscience is telling you, and what you choose to do with that. I can't judge you because I don't know you. And that's one of the things, too, with people that, let's say there's a true sociopath out there, or somebody that just has no conscience. How can you judge that person for doing something that you look at as completely wrong? Does that really have any merit? I don't know. I mean, because everybody's different. So when you watch these videos, you get so emotional. I mean, I know I do. I watch this thing, and I'm looking at this picture right now from the Daily Beast. At the very top of this article, new video emerges about the Alton Sterling being killed by Baton Rouge police. And it just really strikes a chord. It's really sad to see anybody get shot, and especially under that circumstance with that video, it can be pretty frightening and easy to come up with your own conclusions. So when I say the things that I say in this pot and during this presentation, I'm just bringing up questions that I feel need answered, and I think that you guys should want these questions answered as well if this is something that matters to you. Why does the media always have to take a horrible event, and I shouldn't say always, and not all media, but why is it instead of taking something like this and saying, we need to have change, we need to have police officers that are more patient and trained to handle situations better, especially in environments that they might not feel comfortable in, more like a military environment, some of the things that you said. You know, stuff like that. Why can't there be media push for that instead of, oh, white man kills black cop. Oh, white cop should take off his uniform and put his KKK uniform on. Stuff like that. It just pisses people off more. It creates more division, and it makes it easier for the powers that be, whoever they are, whatever it is, to control the masses. And that's why people really need to look at this stuff and realize there's got to be two sides to it and not just go off on a tangent and start throwing rocks through windows.
I agree completely. That's the whole idea of presenting it like this. We want to present both sides of the story, ask questions, and get answers. It's how the news and the media should work. I mean, they shouldn't really take a side. They really shouldn't take left or right. Oh, this is right, this is wrong. Either way, the thing is there's people that are protected by the law. Basically, their job is to uphold the law. And they carry around something that, with the movement of your finger about a half an inch, can end a life. And they ended a man's life on camera with little thought, little hesitation. And that doesn't show many human-like qualities when it comes to a professional or anything like that. Because you said the double-edged sword of it. What if he felt threatened? Okay, well, how would he feel if that black man just killed him with the same irregard that the cop did? And if that was the case, they would have just been, cops would have been being shot at yearly as they drive by. It wouldn't, if somebody really wanted to shoot at a cop, they'd be shooting at the cops. Okay, so he's selling DVDs. He's not a hardened criminal. He's a man trying to get by, and probably has a son. I'm pretty sure I read that. The whole thing just blows my mind. My cousin was murdered on 4/20 2 years ago, because it might have been 3 now, because of a bag of weed. Basically, he was selling weed in a rough town down near Baltimore, and got murdered. They shot him in the head because they wanted to get high on 4/20, and yada yada yada. And it was basically over nothing. There was brain matter on the PlayStation, and they took the PlayStation and scrubbed the brain matter off so they could go play PlayStation later. It just shows you where society goes from here, and it's just a really cold-blooded state. I feel, just like you said, we've been infiltrated with the TV. We've been desensitized from our family values into a more killing, robotic, I hate this guy, I love this guy, cold, hot type of state. You know, it's almost like, I'm peaceful, but don't mess with me or I'll rip your head off. And it's I don't understand it at all, really. Like, there's got to be balance, and a police officer should be balanced, because that's the ones. When you were a kid, did you not ever play cops and robbers? Did you not ever, like, run around pretending you're the good guy helping out people? You know?
Hey, hey, I got to jump in real quick. That was another thing too in that movie. Sorry to interrupt, but during that film, you could see these people actually going out of their house and associating with each other. They were talking to their neighbors. It was crazy. They even had a block party. Do you guys remember those block parties where people actually left their house, went outside, and talked to other people in the neighborhood? It blew my mind. There was even kids outside playing with other kids. They weren't all on their cell phones. They didn't even have cell phones then. It was amazing.
We have that in my neighborhood. It's actually on the outside of any big towns, and yeah, we all get together on the holidays and have cookouts, and you know, well, it's pretty cool. All the kids still play and ride bikes and stuff. But if you go about 5 miles into the city or in any other direction, you see the zombies all looking at their screens, and you see the same exact thing that you're talking about. It's fun.
Check out my new emoji on Facebook.
Yeah. It's the, you know what it is? Any small community that still has a high school, elementary school, middle school system that you go through, and you know the same kids your whole life basically, and then you get out and it's really close to town. Those kind of communities are still like you said in that movie, and basically how it was when we grew up. Those communities are still out there, but they're very rare. They're very rare. It's the suburbs are like disappearing. It's crazy.
It's certainly getting interesting, Jason, and it's always nice to talk with you. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on the show with us here at the Leak Project. You're definitely a great addition here, and keep up the good work, man. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to speak again soon.
Yeah. We'll get a hold of John here and see when we can get back on the radio or have him back over. He had some cool stuff to talk to us about. So
cool. And I'd also like to recommend our listeners go to leakproject.com. If you become a contributing member at leakproject.com, you'll actually have access to exclusive content. And if you subscribe to youtube.com/clandestine time lord, you'll also have access to the latest podcasts free. Our storefront will also be added to the Leak Project here within the next 48 hours. We have changed servers. So if you go to leakproject.com right now and it's down, that is why. The new server system is much faster to give the audience a much better experience. And we're also going to have a section through the contributing members where all of the podcasts, well over 200 full featured shows, will be available for download and listen commercial free. And all the contributions will go directly towards Leak Project goodies, such as we're going to pick up a drone that can follow us around where we won't need a camera crew. So a lot of people have been asking me to get a drone for better video footage when we go on scene, as well as the night vision stuff. And here's a really cool story I got to share with you guys before we close out tonight. I actually met the guy that invented night vision. Yes, he actually owns the patents, and he also made cameras that went to the moon. So if you're skeptical about if we ever went to the moon, he also made the camera that was attached to, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but the first guy that went around the world in an airplane, he made the cameras for that trip. So I'm going to go out to his house and we're going to do a really cool interview with him, a really nice guy. And the way that I met him was just so fascinating because I've told you guys on the show before that if you listen to Leak Project, a very good friend of mine passed recently, and the gentleman that created this night vision is actually related to Lance. So that's how I ended up meeting him. We just totally hit it off. I started picking his brain. We talked for hours, and he lives out in the Fort Wayne area by Dallas. Or not Fort Wayne, Fort Worth area by Dallas. So we're going to go out there and actually get some video footage of these cameras. He's going to show us some exclusive pictures. And just how cool is it that we're going to have a chance to talk to the guy that invented night vision and cutting edge cameras back in the day. So we're going to be able to debunk this flat earth theory, hopefully. And also, did we go to the moon? Appreciate everybody. It's nice to have an opportunity to hear what the comments are. It really makes my day easier and this work easier when you leave good comments. And be the change you want to see, folks. This is Rex Bear. Good night. Hey everybody, this is Rex Bear with Leak Project. I'd like to thank you all for joining us this edition. It is July 7th, 2016, and there is some mass unrest right now, according to the mainstream media out there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because of a shooting of a person by the name of Alton Sterling. Now, I watched the video footage, I would say at least a half dozen times, and you can definitely see this guy getting taken down by two police officers. Then you can clearly see they put their knee to his neck and shoot him. But you don't see any of the footage before that or what took place to that event. So these are some of the questions that I asked Jason, and we have a conversation about how the media basically uses situations like this to create riots, panic, mass hysteria, better ratings for the media, etc., and to push their agendas. So that's what this presentation is essentially about. We just ask the questions that need asking, and I get Jason's take on it. So check out our website, leakproject.com. It is absolutely cutting edge, and we've updated it to a brand new server that is lightning fast, so it's a lot better experience for the audience. Also, as a contributing member at Leak Project, you will have access to exclusive content. So, and all the contributions go to the Leak Project in equipment, so we can get some night vision stuff, drones, traveling. We're going to try and get out to Baton Rouge to see if there's actually riots going on there right now. So keep safe. We'll talk to you soon. This is Rex Bear. Enjoy the show. Way that the media is using this to create more of a divide and conquer, race wars, riots. This, to me, this is perfect, picture perfect for these guys to do this, because you'll have these titles that say the day after somebody was shot, another black man is shot and killed by a police officer. Well, yeah, there's going to be lots of white and black people killed the next day by police officers. You know, I mean, this whole bait and switch thing with the race card is really making me wanting to throw up all over the camera crew here.
Yeah, I know they're completely using it to their advantage. I feel like it was an accident that they didn't mean to get out there. Like how they treat people, you know, is different. Like they're basically, you know, they're told to treat the blacks and the other races like this, and you know, kind of segregate and all that. But they didn't know that this was going to be on camera. You know what I mean? So they're just using it to their advantage. I feel, you know, it wasn't supposed to be. You know, like it wasn't staged or anything. But yeah, they're definitely bending it to divide and conquer. You know what I mean? That's first thing that popped up that all you could really find about it was like race war, black people like all standing there on the corner yelling "fuck the police" and this and that. And now, when you really look deeper, it's just like Louisiana is like a traditional open carry place where you can just literally anybody over 17 can have a gun on them for any reason, no permit at all. Like, you see the deeper lying things there. Like I said, you know, it's literally one of the only states that you can do that, and basically everything they did was against the law. I mean, you can't take the gun out of his pocket after you shoot him and you didn't ask him to. You know what I mean? Basically, it even shows you in the law that if you had a gun and you didn't have a permit, all you have to do is just tell the cops, and that's like how they can deal with it, because literally anybody over age 17 can have a gun.
Did you read the news about how supposedly this Alton Sterling... Now, first of all, my condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Sterling. I know that this has got to be just a terrible time for them to go through the loss of a friend or a family member. And when you watch the video, I watched it about a half dozen times, and you can clearly see that these two police officers tackle him to the ground. One of them has their knee up against his neck while he's on the ground. And, you know, you can tell there's some confrontation going on there. You can't really see too much because the video footage is from a cheap camera on a cell phone a little ways away. But then you do see the gun get pulled out. You hear the shots. And immediately, you know, if you're an emotional person, you're going to think, what in the world is wrong with these guys? He's down on the ground. They've got their knee next to his neck. It looks like he's pretty much self-contained. Yet then you have to kind of look at the other side of the coin here. Imagine being a police officer in a place like Baton Rouge or any other location, big city, where you have to deal with some pretty rough characters on a daily basis. Now, whether this guy was white or black or purple or pink or green or, you know, whatever, I don't think that it really would have mattered to these guys in that circumstance. I think he would have got shot no matter what color he was. Now, once again, whether that's right or wrong, I can't take a position on it. I can clearly see the video footage, and you know, I can say, wow, this is, in my opinion, he didn't need to be shot, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. And now all I'm reading is all this video, or you know, all these news articles coming out saying, well, let me give you some examples here. Let's pull a couple of these up that I had. NBC News comes out with an article by Trymaine Lee. Alton Sterling shooting exposes racial fractures in Baton Rouge. Well, once again, if he was white, would this article have came out saying that there's racial fractures? I don't think so. And then here's another article that came out by Vox Identifies. Alex Abad Santos came up with this article, or at least he revised it, and it's titled Larry Wilmore on Alton Sterling. The punishment for being a black man shouldn't be death. Really, guys? Are you telling me that the only reason he was killed is because he's black? And for all of you protesters out there that are looking for ways to just stir the pot and break stuff and steal stuff, I'm not talking about genuine people that want to see change. I'm talking about those idiots out there that are criminals in the first place and they're just looking for an excuse to cause more problems. Do you guys really think that he was killed just because he's black? Really?
I don't agree with the fact that they killed him because he was black, okay? But I'm not saying that these cops aren't racist either, you know? In that kind of an area where you have basically a racially divided and segregated area, and it's done like that with income and, you know, the whole shebang, it's still basically segregated there. This guy was a local. He sold DVDs. Everybody knew him by name. It's a small town right there. He sold DVDs. He was like the big neighborhood guy, and yeah, he had a criminal record, but it wasn't violent. Like I said, anybody over 17 can carry a gun there. They didn't ask him to they say get on the ground and tackle him at the same time, and then they say, I swear to God, and he doesn't reach. His hands are at the side, clearly at his side. You can see that in the video. He doesn't reach for anything, and then they shoot him in the chest. He didn't do anything. It was almost like stop resisting, stop resisting. And the guy's deaf and he doesn't hear you and he keeps walking up the street. Like the same kind of mentality. It was almost like.
Did you hear the official story as to why the police were actually sent there in the first place?
Because they heard there was a man in the area with a gun, all right? Anybody over the age of 17 in Louisiana can carry a gun, concealed or otherwise, okay? That's the law, unless there's a clearly marked sign in a church, courthouse. I just looked over the whole entire law. Anybody over the age of 17. And you can actually get a permit for a couple of dollars to where you can carry it on your side, like in churches and schools and police stations, things like that. But it's clearly marked with a sign if you can't have a gun there. That's it. And that's the law. It's a traditional open carry state.
Let's add something to that, though. The reason the cops supposedly showed up, at least according to the official story, is when he was out there selling DVDs, a homeless person came up to him